yeah, players are sitting down to the match. We will have them loaded up momentarily. So it is finals time here at the Vintage Super League. This should be a lot of fun. Eric and Chris have both demonstrated the ability to play awesome Magic. They're both very good at the Vintage format. Season all comes down to this. One other thing we can mention that just update people on what's going on while we get this match set up for you. We talked about how David Williams got relegated out of the league. What we haven't really talked about today anyway is what we're going to do to replace him as the new 10th member of Vintage Super League. Season 3 of Vintage Super League looks like it's going to start. It's probably going to work out to be June 30th is how it's going to work out for Season 3 of Vintage. So take about 2 months and change off, come back June 30th. But first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to run a play-in tournament to determine who the new 10th competitor is going to be in Season 3. And we're going to give Williams a shot to earn his spot back. Josh Utter-Layton, who was relegated during Season 1, gets a shot to earn his spot back. And then, yeah, I mean, this field came together great, in my opinion. You get your vintage community members, you get your Pro Tour players, Hall of Famers. I would watch this show, you know?
Oh, yeah, this is going to be sweet. I like all the direction moving to involve more about this sort of like relegation promotion concept.
Yep.
I think is really fun. And you know, I think it's a great direction to take the league, and I'm excited to see this kind of continue to develop as in future seasons. And there's some great names on this list who I'd love to see join the league.
Yeah, I feel we can't lose, right? Doesn't matter who wins it.
I will say personally, I have a small root here for Sam, just because I think he will play crazy decks.
Sure.
Josh also gets points for that, so I think either Sam or Josh.
How is Gerard Fabiano not your play crazy decks guy?
Is just playing Sultai Control crazy 3 times in the league? I don't know. Like I said,
Sam is the guy I would be most.
I don't see any of these 8 guys. It's a great lineup, and you mentioned we can't lose here.
Yeah.
But I think Sam and Josh both being known for their deck building in Standard and Modern, seeing what they can do in the Vintage scene. We saw a little bit with Josh in his first appearance in the league.
Oh yeah.
Sam, when Vintage first came out on Moto, was very actively playing a crazy dredge version of a deck that looked like a dredge engine, which was really cool. So I think it'd be exciting to see what they do.
All right, here we go. Finals time. Eric Froehlich has a Mishra's Workshop in his hand and a Lodestone Golem. Wow, that is a great draw.
That's an absurd hand.
Oh, and it's against Fish. So Chris did run the Merfolk deck. How does that draw? He's got a Cavern to kind of deal with the Chalice, but Lodestone Golem is still kind of an issue. Yeah, it's a good draw for Merfolk, but what it does not have is a Force of Will. It's got a Mental Misstep, which actually will run into the Soul Ring. Wow, this is kind of an interesting... This should be an interesting game. Die roll's kind of a big deal.
Die roll here is... yeah, it's actually huge, right? So Chris will be able to just play a turn 2 Lord, turn 3 Lord, and might be able to try to race.
Right. It actually depends whether Eric plays around Mental Misstep or not. Right?
Does that matter? He has so much mana in his hand that I think it doesn't.
Oh, he's got the Black Lotus. Sorry. Oh, by the way, there's a Black Lotus in his hand. I was thinking it was Workshop Mox Soul Ring, in which case getting to 4 isn't trivial. But he has Black Lotus, so whatever.
Is Ravager a normal card in these lists?
Which what?
Arcbound Ravager was the draw here for Eric.
Good grief. No, that is not a normal card. That is an Arcbound Ravager. How bizarre. So Eric goes for Soul Ring, which is about the only Mental Misstep target in the entire deck. Chris sees the Workshop, he knows exactly what's going on, does not hesitate to misstep the Soul Ring, which means Eric is at 3. Oh, make it 6 mana. Wow, Black Lotus is so good.
And he gets a Kaz Ravager here, too.
He has Arcbound Ravager in his Workshop list. How bizarre. I mean, this seems pretty devastating for Chris, right?
I wonder if that's for the mirror. Like, it's an ability to shut off, like, you can play early.
Look at the trolls from Eric. The wrong Ardent Meddling Mage just hanging out in his hand. Savage. All right, Chris decides to go for Wasteland on Mishra's Workshop. I mean, it sets himself back a turn, which is less than ideal when he's getting pounded on by this Lodestone Golem. But he doesn't want to let Eric do anything else.
I don't think he can afford to do that though here, right? Because he needs to play 2 lords to be able to trade.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision for sure.
I should just play 3 lords to trade because the Ravager can just put a counter onto the Lodestone Golem and protect it. And he really wants to just trade 1 lord for it. I think
Chalice 1 is from Eric. Yeah, no, I was a little bit surprised by that work by the Wasteland. I'm not sure. It felt like Chris needed to build up his mana here.
Yeah, I like this play from Ephro. He's going to sack the Mox and the Chalice on 0, I think, to the Ravager to deal extra damage and put him on a 3-turn clock. Oh, interesting. He just wants to lock up the 2 Moxes. Does it speed up? Oh, no, okay, so it doesn't change the clock. That's fine. He can just do it next turn. Yeah, it does not speed up his clock.
There's also one thing going on here is that Chris hasn't officially revealed what he's playing, right? All he's shown Eric is Mental Misstep, Wasteland, Island, Island. So, I mean,
I would bet that he...
Merfolk is the most likely deck from 2 basic islands, but you're not 100% on Merfolk if you're Eric, right?
And here this is 6, 7, 8. Yep.
Yeah, it's lethal next turn.
Yeah, I think taking that turn to Wasteland just killed Chris.
Yeah, if he was on 4 mana this turn, where he could go Lord, copy a Lord.
He also would have been able to play a Lord last turn.
Right, he would have played Lord last turn. He would play 2 Lords this turn. No. He would have played. He can't play the 2 Lords this turn. I'm crazy because of the Lodestone Golem. But he'd be playing a 2nd Lord now.
Or he just even copy Lodestone Golem and trade that way, but have a 2nd Lord around so he wouldn't just be dead to the other attackers. But now the Ravager just kills him.
Yeah, the Ravager kills him. It can even dump counters onto the workshop. I mean, to the Mishra's Factory to kill him. Hilarious. Yeah, Arcbound Ravager doing work. Pretty crazy. Eat that. Eat that. What is that? 3, 4, 5. Okay, eat that. Take 6. Well, that's all Chris has got.
All right.
Crazy.
That was spicy.
That was spicy. That is a good word for it. How many people out there had Eric Froehlich on Arcbound Ravager shops?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's a one of or what Ephro is thinking with the card. Like I have not played very much shops at all, so I'm not sure kind of what matchups it's going to be shoring up or changing. But it's an interesting card. It's a very powerful card in general, and it gives you a cheap threat that can get under kind of all the tax effects that happen in the mirror, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it is. Is it a fun of? I do not have a copy of the deck list. I don't know if it's possible to email me a copy of the deck list. I can look the stuff up on the fly. Yeah, I mean, certainly it's going to give you a powerful threat. One of the problems with the Shops deck from time to time is the fact that it just sometimes locks you up, but then can't actually kill you.
Right.
Interesting. Now, we'll also get to find out how much sideboard Chris is going to have. I think maybe Eric just really wants us to stop calling it Martello Shops and start calling it Ephro Shops. Certainly can't call it Martello Shops if it's featuring this Arcbound Ravager tech.
I'm fine with giving him some naming rights at this point. He's putting his own spin on it.
Pretty clearly his own spin. I mean, I'm not sure. It's not like even from the Martello side, he didn't go get the Martello version of the Shops deck. It was more that I think Ephro's just been mucking around with the archetype, trying different things and seeing what works. And, you know, the Martello Shops is what most people call the Forge Master version.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now I have a deck list. 3 Arcbound Ravagers. No Forge Masters. Yep, this is Ephro Shops. Done and done. He no Forge Master, but 3 Ravager instead. He's got a Batterskull in there. Wow! He's got Porcelain Legionnaire and Sword of Fire and Ice, too.
What is going on? This is
Good times. He's got a sort of a little more creature-based version of the Shops deck. You know, that seems good in this matchup.
sure.
Yeah, that is Sword of Fire and Ice. And now, yeah, Wormcoil Engine's in from the sideboard as well.
You mentioned how one of the things that Fish gets to do is it plays a True Name Nemesis. You can't race it with a shop stack. Sword
Yep.
of Fire and Ice, I bet, races True Name Nemesis.
You make a good point. Wow, that is super smart. That's got to be exactly why Eric did this, right? He knows
Oh,
Chris is
absolutely.
likely to play Merfolk.
I'm sure all three of his decks have some subset of have a very clear sideboard plan against Fish and a very clear sideboard plan against shops.
Yeah, Chris's sideboard has 2 Steel Sabotage for this matchup, 2 Hurkyl's Recall. Yeah, it is. He does have the Chalice of the Void version of the Merfolk deck. You can see the Chalice in play there. It's not a bad turn 1. Curse Catcher and Chalice on 0. Successfully stranded a Jet into Eric's hand. Sphere prevents him from playing a Lord now, though. Now what happens? Cavern is probably going to get wastelanded. Is Eric actually going to succeed in disrupting Chris's mana? That Sphere is doing some crazy good work there. Yeah, wasteland your Cavern.
Yep.
I'm the real mana denial deck, not you.
And he also wants to make sure that his Chalice on 2 is going to be effective. He knows that that's the real threat point out of a Merfolk deck.
Sure. Wow. Workshop is 3. Ancient Tomb makes 5. He can Chalice 2 through his own Sphere.
Yep.
It's got to be fine.
Annulled because of the Sphere.
Chris has the Steel Sabotage, but Sphere of Resistance has just done crazy good work here.
Yeah, this one is over.
Unbelievable. Eric Froehlich just refuses to lose.
Let's go to Academy and a Wormcoil here as well.
What a shellacking! And a Tangle Wire for good measure.
Is he just playing on Force Will here?
Sure. Wow. Okay, so is this Efro Shops or someone in the chat is suggesting FroBots?
I am not a naming scientist, so I'm going to leave that one to the experts, the powers that be.
I think it's Efro Shops. But...
I think it's 1-0 in the finals of the Vintage Super League is what I think.
You make a good point. Wow. Equip Wormcoil with Sword of Fire and Ice. Take that, Merfolk. What a blowout. Yeah, there's the Hurkyl's Recall. But yeah, Chris has no mana. Only drew the 2 from his opener. Never drew any more. Wasteland. Just didn't even come close to being able to deploy a game plan here.
Yep.
I don't think Chris did anything wrong.
I think game 1 I would have played differently, but I think he still would have lost.
Yeah.
Game 2, those games just line up poorly. When the shop stack draws more mana denial than you draw lands, you don't get to play Magic, which is why that shop stack is so effective. It decks, Merfolk can't come out under it as efficiently because it just plays one thing a turn usually.
Yeah.
And so it's going to have a problem with those sorts of draws. It's going to line up poorly.
All right, Tom, thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
are going to take a quick break. When we come back, you will be replaced by Luis Scott Vargas, and maybe our main event will be replaced by actually close games of Magic. Maybe.
I hope so.
Not if Eric has anything to say about it. But stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.